Latest football news, engaging debates,
and fascinating opinions.
Pitchside talk on IO Radio. So it's Leeds versus Spurs today, kicking off the games for Saturday. And for Leeds, Calvin Phillips and Rafinha will be assessed to see if they could play in this game after coming back from knee and thigh problems. Also, Liam Cooper, he has now returned after his 3-match suspension that he picked up against Manchester City. But for Spurs, the only injury news they have is Ben Davies. He's still out with a calf problem. But apart from that, Ryan Mason's got a full-foot squad to choose from here. Piers here, the last time these two sides met, it ended 3-0 to Spurs on the day. But for Leeds here, they could jump back up to 9th here with a victory. But for Spurs, they're looking to make it 3 on the bounce here under Ryan Mason in the league. And they could go back up to 5th and put a little bit of a push on for this top 4 a little bit still.
Yeah, it's an interesting game for both teams. Obviously, Leeds, a bit of a shock defeat last time out against Brighton, but you know what they're like. They're just very inconsistent this season, but half the time they're amazing, put on amazing performances, and then the other half they lose games like that. So, they want to come back and pick up points, especially against the Spurs team that's in a bit of a transition at the moment. Obviously, under Ryan Mason, they're undefeated in the league. I mean, they haven't played the best caliber of teams. Southampton and Sheffield United obviously lost the League Cup final, but it's surprising where Tottenham can go with a win after the terrible run that they had towards the end of the Mourinho era, being able to go on a 5th and put pressure on that top 4. But to be honest, I think Leeds will bounce back in this game. I just fancy their chances. I think just the way they're set up. I think they're better tactically at the moment than Tottenham. I think they're a bit disarray. Tottenham. I think they've just been lucky with the result with the teams they've played. So I'm going to go for a Leeds win. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Leeds.
So there's Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace today. And for Sheffield United, Chris Basham and Serge Burge are going to be available after not reporting any illness effects from return to action last weekend. But for Crystal Palace, James Tompkins and Nathaniel Klein are both in contention to make their returns from injury. And Wilfried Zaha, who played against Man City in the last week, despite feeling very uncomfortable in his groin, should be okay for this game, according to Roy Hodgson. Piers here for Sheffield United. They're just trying to end on a high, really. They lost 4-0 last time out for Spurs here. But for Crystal Palace here, possibly a good opportunity here to break this winless run they're on currently 4 games against a side that's already been relegated and are shipping goals left, right and centre.
Yeah, I think we can guarantee this game's not going to be a barn burner. I think it's probably going to be the most boring game of the weekend. Obviously, both teams haven't really got much to play for. I just think at the moment, Crystal Palace will be wanting to get the win. Obviously, just to break 4 games without winning and 3 losses on the bounce. And obviously, Sheffield United just playing for pride. Their season's done. It was done ages ago. So, I think Palace will just go in there and they'll just get the job done easily. To be fair, I think this will be a good way for them to build confidence and maybe try and put some pressure on Wolves. But apart from that, I can't see much else. So I'm just going to go for a Palace win and go for a 1-0.
So the biggest game this weekend, Manchester City versus Chelsea. And for Manchester City, John Stones is available after serving his domestic ban after again that red card against Aston Villa. And there's no new injury reports for Pep Guardiola's side. But for Thomas Tuchel, Kovacic, he is still out with a hamstring problem. Rudiger, it looks like he's going to be possibly playing this game and be wearing a protective mask here. But Piers, these two sides are going to be facing themselves in the Champions League final later this month. But this is a big game really for Man City. If they win this, they will win the league. Something that has got postponed last week because of Man U not playing Liverpool. But if they win here, they will win the league. But for Chelsea here, if they win, strengthen their position in top 4, get one over Man City before the final later this month.
Yeah, I mean it's a very interesting game. I mean, obviously it's even more anticipation for it, obviously with the Champions League final up ahead. Both teams have been in brilliant form. Obviously, both teams being absolute super giants in midweek and in the Champions League. Both defenses looking great. I mean, that Man City defense against PSG of those 2 legs was amazing. Same for the Chelsea defense midweek. So it's such a hard game to call. I think if you're a superstitious person, Chelsea are known for giving the league to teams. Obviously, they've been giving it to Leicester and City in the last few years, so you could say that. But to be honest, I think this game's going to be so tight. I just think both teams, obviously, Man City are definitely going to want to win this to win the league, and Chelsea need this for top 4. But I think they're going to cancel each other a little bit out. To be honest, I think the form that they're both in is amazing. Obviously, Man City have got the home form, but I just imagine a draw, and I'm just going to go for a 1-1.
So it is Liverpool versus Southampton, the last game for Saturday. And for Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp says he will be assessing the fitness of several unnamed players who are nursing minor knee and minor injuries. But Nat Phillips, he is available once again. And John Henson, he has not even started training just yet. But for Southampton, they've got a little bit of an injury problem. Vestergaard, he can play. His red card has been overturned, so that's good for them. But Danny Ings, he's not fit enough to face his old club, but could return just in time for the end of the season after coming back from his hamstring problem. Piers, if Liverpool, a big game here, really. They've got to keep winning games if they want to try and push for the Champions League spots, which is now really out of their hands, and see what happens with Chelsea. But for Southampton here, a victory here will get them to that 40-point mark, and we then can say they are safe for next season.
Yeah, I think this is always an interesting game. Obviously, Liverpool versus their future signings. It's always a great game. I think, Southampton, I think, a really good point against Leicester. They probably could have even got the win there, to be honest. For Liverpool, I think, although they've had this bad form as of recent, I think the last few weeks, I think has been a bit unlucky for them. Obviously, they crashed out of the Champions League, and then with all the Super League news, taking the draw to Leeds, and then obviously Newcastle. I think it's probably not a fair representation of how Liverpool been playing at the moment. Obviously, they haven't performed the greatest. That's why they've dropped these points. But I think there's been a lot circling around with the club, which is sometimes caused these results for Liverpool. Obviously, not making any excuses for them, but I think coming into this game, Liverpool definitely want to try and get the points up. They'll be looking at the Chelsea game, thinking they can drop something here against C, and obviously Leicester playing Newcastle. That might be a tricky game for them, and Tottenham breathing down their necks. I think Liverpool will go for it. Obviously, Southampton's survival, that 40-point mark is normally guaranteed. But to be honest, I think they're probably already safe. So I think Liverpool will get the win here, and we'll go for a 2-0 to Liverpool.